Good.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Strategic Planning Committee meeting, special meeting, Wednesday, March 8th, 2023. We're going to try to keep this to a 2-hour meeting, number one. And I thank everybody that's been trying very hard. And I owe this group an apology. I walked by those two beautiful things that I didn't even look at them, and I went back, and it's phenomenal, and I'm sure you'll tell everybody about them. Okay, public comment relative to agenda items, except for you. Okay. Anyone online? Public comments relative to agenda items? Okay.
And we actually do have a quorum now, so you...
And we do have a quorum now. Approval of the minutes of February 21st, 2023.
Move the item.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Aye. No?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to abstain. I was not at the meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner? Okay, down to the nitty-gritty report. 2003 Barrington Wells Management Study Update, Wastewater Maintenance and Environmental Health and Safety Issues.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Tom Tom, I'm the Director of Facilities, and I'm going to give you a brief overview today of what the Facilities Division is, and then today's focus is going to be on water pollution control and maintenance, which has 3 main elements. The next meeting, we will cover water supply and treatment, along with rec and our lab, and that will be the other portions of the facility group. But I have with me today a bunch of our senior managers and supervisors, and I'd like to take a moment and allow them to introduce themselves. And these are from WPC and maintenance only, and you'll have an opportunity to meet the water supply, treatment, and lab folks at our next meeting. So, Joe.
Jeff Bowers from Water Pollution Control, manager.
Good afternoon, Scott Rose, electronic maintenance.
Bob Luigi, Superintendent, WPC.
Bruce Lundy, Rocky Hill Supervisor.
Mark Kaika, East Hartford Supervisor. Mike?
Mike Fusick, Facility Maintenance Supervisor.
Tom Matthew, Facility Maintenance Superintendent.
David Hartley, Central Equipment Maintenance and Warehouse Superintendent.
Steve Topolato, Stock Facilities Supervisor.
Dave Egloff, Central Equipment Maintenance Assistant Superintendent.
Carl Valou, Quantic Water Pollution Control Facility Supervisor.
Thank you. So the facilities group within the district has 5 main functions. We have water supply and water treatment, which years ago were separate groups, but have now been merged into water treatment and supply. We have water pollution control, which is responsible for treating wastewater. So when we talk about WPC, that's water pollution control. Water quality, which is accountable for all the analysis, analytical of our drinking water and wastewater. And again, this is the lab function. That will be highlighted at the next strategic presentation. And then maintenance, which has, again, as I mentioned, 3 main functions. They operate pump stations, take care of all of our facilities, vehicles, equipment, warehouse. So the 2 highlighted in green are what we're going to focus on this afternoon. So to give you a general overview of the facilities, this is what our org chart looks like. About 164 district employees in the facilities group. It's about 40% of the district's entire workforce in the 5 main areas. So we see maintenance, staffing of 54, water pollution control, staffing of 58. Those are the 2 areas that we're going to focus on today. So to comment on some of the items from the management report. So one of the key points that was in there was about budget adherence, and I'm not going to read the bullets because I believe you all have access to the presentation, but fundamentally they raised the importance of us adhering to our operating budgets. And the table on the right shows the facilities 2023 approved operating budget of the main elements within facilities. So we account for a little bit over $45 million of our operating budget. It's about 22% of the operating budget. And in the past decade, there has been no need for any group within the facilities division to have to request additional funding because they could not stay within their approved budget. And in reality, what often happens is when other groups need a little money at the end of the year, they often look to the facilities group to say, can we take a little bit extra from here? Can we take some from here? Can we take there? So we've never needed more money, and we occasionally provide additional funding when we get near the end of the year. So there was a lot of discussion about succession planning. I know Scott and many of the other presenters that have talked, Chris and Susan, we've heard this theme of succession planning. So we've worked really hard within the facilities division to have a focus on succession planning. And I can tell you on the bottom of the screen is a great overview of what we've done. Just since post-COVID time frame, because we didn't hire a lot of people during COVID, but since that time, we've hired 15 people from outside the district. We've promoted 25 internally. 2 of those promotions were people that were hired during that time frame, and I think that's a really great comment on the quality of people that we're bringing in. And we're always trying to focus on developing internally, because people know the mission. If they're here, we have great comfort that they believe in the mission and they want to be long-term employees. But we do bring outside skills when we need it, when it's the right hire. It's not always what we do first, but there are times when we want to bring in people from external. So you'll hear when Jeff Bowers introduces himself tonight, you'll hear a little bit of his background. I came from another utility and many years of engineering before I came to the district. And there are many of our folks here that likewise started their career somewhere else, brought that experience here, and then became part of the district succession plan. So some more just on the succession plan. You've heard many, many times, doing more with less. You'll see the graphs that show how our workload has increased significantly over the years. More facilities, more complex equipment and processes within those facilities, and yet a general reduction in the number of employees. So, and Jeff will talk in detail about that when we get to WPC. So with that, if there's no questions about the facilities group in general, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Bowers to provide the WPC discussion. Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you.
No? Okay.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Jeff Bowers, Manager of Water Pollution Control. I started with the district approximately 18 years ago. Once I started with the district, I hired in as a shift supervisor at our Hartford facility. I was promoted to WPC superintendent and then promoted to manager of water pollution control about 3 years ago. Prior to coming to the district, I started my career in the United States Air Force, actually working with both water and wastewater. From the Air Force, I was stationed in Southern California. I stayed in Southern California for about 18 years, worked for a large utility agency out there, very similar to the Metropolitan District, had multiple facilities which I worked at, which gave me a good leg up when I wanted to transfer back out to the East Coast, where I grew up in Syracuse, New York. So today I'd like to talk about WPC, some of our successes. As you may know, WPC has 4 wastewater treatment facilities. Our East Hartford facility is rated at 12.5 million gallons a day. Our Rocky Hill facility, 7.5 million gallons a day with a peak wet weather flow of 27, which is an important fact. Pequannock is rated for 5 million gallons a day. And then our Hartford facility is rated for 90 million gallons a day through our secondary process. Another 110 million gallons a day through our wet weather operations, for a total of that 200 MGD. Thank you. Little fact, Hartford is the largest facility in the state of Connecticut and second in the New England region. So why do we do what we do? Our ultimate goal is to provide clean water that we can discharge to the Connecticut River. With that, I'd like to introduce Robert Luigi. Bob is our WPC superintendent that oversees our Hartford facility. We have some things we wanted to kind of point out at the start of this presentation, a little show and tell. This particular sample is an influent of what's coming in, raw sewage coming into the facility.
You have cups for everybody?
Yeah. Smell. From there, we have the effluent to our facility, which gives you an idea of the level or quality of what's being discharged to the Connecticut River. In comparison to that, we have tap water. So when you look at the tap water in comparison to our effluent, which we do on a regular basis with tours that we have with college students and high school students, we show them that comparison as a fun fact to say, hey, which one is which? Sometimes they get it right, sometimes they don't. The next one is our mixed liquor concentration. Bob will shake it up. Gives you an idea. That's what is in our aeration basins. We look at it as solids, but in reality, it's a culmination of microorganisms. That is the workhorse of our biological system in our aeration basins. In the beginning of the facility, we have to remove a lot of debris. Those two items there are grit and screenings. The grit is an inorganic material that's very abrasive. We remove it out of the process in the beginning to minimize the impacts to the downstream equipment. The rags, same concept, remove that material so that when we have problems with plugging up of various equipment and pumps and sustain the longevity of those pieces of equipment. Next is our sludge that we get in the facility, or as an industry calls it, biosolids. That material goes to our solids processing facility. We dewater it, which means we thicken it up, and then that's a fuel source for our incinerators, and we pump that into the incinerators. This is an ash byproduct of our incinerators, so at the end of this system, excuse me, at the bottom of the incinerators, we capture that ash into silos. From the silos, we transport it into day bins before it goes into a truck that we take off to a landfill. That happens Monday through Friday of every week.
Excuse me, just for a second. Mr. Chair, do you want us to wait until the end to ask questions?
I think if you ask as we go along, so we don't lose continuity of what's being said.
I'm just curious, when you were talking about the 4 smaller items, right? So the first 2, what do we do with those? How do we dispose of those when they come out?
So those both get collected in collection bins, and then they're transported as a special waste to a landfill.
Okay, so we're trucking those out to a landfill?
Correct.
Okay, and then obviously that's turned into that, and then that goes to a landfill as well?
That is correct.
Okay, and do you have any numbers about what we're dealing with on a daily basis, just from
I can tell you
Hartford?
with the ash, not on a daily basis, but on a monthly basis, we're doing about 500 tons of disposal of ash in a given month.
500 tons in a given month?
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
So the next thing Bob's pointing out is a shadow box that one of our operators created for us. So when we did our tours, and I thought it was a good show and tell here, it depicts what our structures look like for our biofilters. So it's a breakdown of media within the biofilters of wood chips and compost to treat our odorous air that goes through it on a daily basis. So next to that is a series of books. And in the first book kind of references back in the early 70s, referencing the Clean Water Act. As operators, that's the book we had to understand and achieve competency to run the facilities. Now, fast forward to 2023, these are the books the operators have to review to establish competency with the facilities, as well as competency to be able to take the state of Connecticut's wastewater certification exams. So to my right, as you walked in, that some of you may have seen, we have flow measuring devices. Those are vintage 1938 devices. They were cleaned up and put into that fashion case with the stand and everything by one of our operators. He did an excellent job, and we definitely wanted to showcase that. We keep that at the facility right now, again, for tours, to just highlight the historical equipment that we have at the facilities, or were at the facilities back in 1938. So moving forward, Water Pollution Control has a staff of approximately 57, most at the Hartford facility. In 2023, I think Tom mentioned this, the Hartford, or the Water Pollution Control had an operating budget of $21.5 million. This is the largest portion of the operations budget within MDC. All WPC facilities are operated 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our satellite facilities, although they operate that amount of time, are only staffed Monday through Friday. On the weekends and the off shifts, our Hartford facility oversees the operation of those satellite facilities. And you may ask, how do they do that with nobody there? And we'll talk quite a bit through this presentation about a high-level automation that we have that allows us to monitor thousands of pieces of equipment within those treatment facilities throughout the night, throughout the weekends, to be able to respond if we have certain types of alarms. The plants in general, and you can see by what's posted here, has had excellent compliance records. Since 1997, we've earned over 100 awards, and this is through NACWA. NACWA is an organization, the National Association of Clean Water Authorities. You can see that we kind of pepper that chart since 1997 with gold awards, silver awards, and East Hartford stands out in 2012 through 2020 having the Platinum Award. So we're excited and we're very happy about the performance of the plants and how we keep achieving that. In order to do that, and again, kind of a fun fact up on top, the treatment facilities do over 5,900 water quality tests, of which in 2022, only 2 didn't meet the standard. And that's over 99% success rate, which we're pretty proud of. Thank you. So of our 4 treatment facilities, they have a treatment capacity of 245 MGD. We operate under the premise of Connecticut DEEP permits and air permits. Those permits provide guidance to the facility and operational parameters which we operate under. WPC has kind of, I'll say, led the charge early on with the elimination of siloed operators. You may ask yourself, what the heck is a siloed operator? Well, going back many years ago, we had operators that within our facility, specifically at Hartford, only could work one area of that facility by union contract. We negotiated with the union and we created what we'll term a versatile operator. And in doing so, we opened up the door to have these operators have a bigger understanding of the entire facility. So it helped the district, it helped Water Pollution Control, it also helped the operators, as you can see with the books. It allowed those operators to have a bigger picture and pursue their certification license and have better success rate. The graph at the very top shows you, as a result of making some of the changes that we've made, we had a significant reduction in staff. During that time frame, we started out with 77. We're down to 57 currently. Same time, you would think with a reduction of staff, you'd also see an increase in overtime with the chart there. In essence, we reduced the overtime over those years. And the theme all along is through automation of the facilities and the operation of the operators, being more understanding of the entire facility instead of a specific area. One of the things we've done to enhance and continue the process of the facilities is operators, aside from just maintenance, perform preventative maintenance work orders to keep the equipment running and establish the longevity of those pieces of equipment. In 2022, water pollution control staff performed over 4,000 preventative maintenance work orders.
Good question.
Sure.
As we look at the top chart in the previous,
Sorry, Commissioner, could you speak in the mic?
at the top chart, we see that the overtime has actually gone significantly down.
Yep.
And so has the staffing level over the years. But it doesn't seem to correlate, the budget doesn't seem to correlate to both the decrease in the overtime and the decrease in staffing. Is there a reason why that looks that way, that the budget seems to have gone up,
What do you think?
but everything else is going down?
Well, if I may, your budget is, you made a 200 million gallon a day treatment plant when it was 80, right? So you double the size of the plant. So I think Tom mentioned last week when he was here, he talked about we're taking in less sludge from outside consultants, outside municipalities, because we're producing more of our own because of the wet weather system,
so that-
the 110.
I see that represents our increase in.
Right,
in
so our plant's bigger.
operational increase.
And we're spending more money, capital investment money to improve the system. We're spending more money, there's more technical people here that have to now maintain all that electronics that we are relying on to operate the plant, right? So you might reduce your operational staff, but you have to increase your technical staff to maintain it,
Right,
right?
understand that. Thank you.
In the last decade, we've completed numerous startups at the facilities. Most notably at the Hartford facility, without going through and reading every one of those, we've had some significant ones through our heat recovery process, biological nutrient, ultraviolet disinfection. Many startups, and we've done that without the increase in staff along that way. And actually, as you saw from the previous slide, with actually a reduction in staff. Over the years, we've negotiated with DEEP and led the effort for our 5-year NPDES permits. So we've actually been able to sit down with Connecticut DEEP, review permits, and being able to work through it before they actually officially turn them over to us. It's been a collaborative opportunity for us that our staff has done over the last several years. Throughout the years, as you can see with these graphics, we strive for enhanced nitrogen removal, not at one facility, but all our facilities. Specifically, in 2021 was the first year that our Rocky Hill and East Hartford facility got a payback from Connecticut DEEP. We don't see that being a one-year event. We see that being a continuous event as we move forward. At the same time, the Hartford facility, as you can see above on the graph, has significantly dropped in its nitrogen, resulting in a reduction in the number or the amount of dollars paid to Connecticut DEEP for that nitrogen. The performance that we've had has been enhanced through these different upgrades, and as well through the education of our staff led by our supervisors here behind me, specifically pointing out Rocky Hill led by Bruce Lundy and East Hartford led by Mark Kaika has shown those reductions to those facilities. Hartford specifically, to the bottom graph, has removed 3.5 million pounds of nitrogen per year from the Connecticut River. Again, we continue to strive to do better.
Are you going to change?
Nope.
Oh, I just want to, if you look at the 2003 report, and we talk about this a lot, we talk about MDC needs to find additional revenues because of everything's more expensive, right? And one theme that I tried to express in my presentation, and I think all the other departments have, is let's be as efficient as we can first, right? So Jeff just showed you roughly $1 million savings on reducing nitrogen because we're mandated to pay for it through the nitrogen credit program from DEEP. So we didn't get additional revenue, but we saved $1 million. So the logic of making sure that we're as efficient as we can be, we can save as much money rather than trying to find another revenue source to be less efficient, right? Sorry, Jeff.
Okay, energy is one of the largest expenses for the district and its core business. Electricity is the largest component of energy expenses. This comes from, a number of pieces of equipment, thousands of pieces of equipment, from pumps to meters for automation to control our process. The graph here depicts a typical year with the district, referencing 76% of the electrical use is within water pollution control, where only 6% is within our water sector. We have to be prudent as we move forward with our wastewater treatment facilities and some of our energy conservation. So over the years, we participated in demand response programs through Eversource. These demand response programs have provided financial incentives to the district. Since 2018, the district has earned more than $500,000 in performance-based incentives through this demand response. What this demand response does for the facilities is we get a notification, our supervisors get a notification, and they indicate to us, please shed power. We have an itemized list to do that for each and every event. By doing that, we get a monetary incentive, and we've been participating, as noted, well back prior to 2018. Continuous improvements have been done, as noted here, a capital improvement project, improvements through the Connecticut grant programs. If you note, at the very top is a Hartford water pollution control project for lighting and HVAC. Although it was the most, I should say the highest amount in that particular list, if you look to the right, you'll see that the annual savings was significant in comparison to the other projects. Understanding and making the point that by making a change at our facility, because we're the largest use of electricity, has a significant annual savings with some of those upgrades. Since 2014, Hartford Water Pollution Control has operated an electrical production facility. This facility, I'm proud to say, has produced 130 million kilowatt hours of power with an electrical savings of over $13 million. This $13 million exceeds the capital cost of that facility. Since 2005, collaboration with Eversource on energy efficiency projects has provided the district with $2.5 million in incentive bonuses. WPC received Eversource's single largest energy efficiency incentive of $1.5 million for installation of new aeration blowers that we currently operate today. The district continues to look at other technologies and alternatives to enhance the performance of our facility and the reduction of electrical costs. This picture here is of our disinfection process. Our effluent during disinfection season goes through this process to disinfect the wastewater. In 2001, 2022, we did an upgrade to this area. The upgrade was to enhance the performance for disinfection purposes, but at the same time to establish efficiency within the UV operation, that efficiency equates to less electrical power being used. And if you can imagine, that facility operates with lamps, 1,728 lamps. So the reduction or the need to minimize the use of those lamps has a significant electrical impact. Our electrical production facility produces 30% of the plant's electrical demand on average daily. This has saved the ratepayers more than $1 million each year, and we produce 1.5 megawatts of power each day. Regional solids receiving facility we have at the Hartford plant has been a steady source of revenue to the district that equates to over $77 million since 2007. $77 million that our staff on a daily basis works to maintain and to establish the operation of that facility. A significant accomplishment in itself, considering the size of our facility and during the upgrades of our facility without additional staff. The compliment for that goes to our operators, our supervisors, and specifically our maintenance group that helps us maintain that equipment to keep us up and running every day. As a business, and we look at this as a business model, you have to pay close attention to it on a daily basis. And when I say close attention to it, you have to look at the market rates. What is the areas outside of our facility doing? How are they disposing of their solids? And we are a source for other regional utilities within our area as well as the New England region. Some of that business model looks at the strategies that we have to look at to make sure we're taking in the right amount and the right kind of sludge. Every sludge isn't the same, and our operators will tell you that on the operation of our incinerators. But we look at that and we dictate to individuals that want to come to us whether they're digested sludge, phosphorus-laden sludge, and that impact to us is a low BTU value, which means that we have to use more energy for our incinerators. If we have to use more energy for the incinerators to maintain our temperatures, we have a potential impact to our compliance. So we regulate that and monitor that closely. Good operation is translated, the bottom of that graph, because of our performance, pounds of emissions per ton of sludge has drastically reduced. That equates to what we have to pay Connecticut Deep on an annual basis. That's a 70% reduction. How do we maintain this? I mentioned it happens with our operators, happens with our maintenance staff, happens with our supervisor, but it happens with good communication with WPC, our lab staff that helps us provide the analytical data we need to understand what we're doing, as well as the finance department that works with us for putting the bills out to our customers to get that revenue into the district. So all these successes, these improvements, reduction in staff, have to be done in some way, shape, or form. That's been through our SCADA, our supervisory control and data acquisition. Through SCADA and a high level of automation provides us the resources to be able to monitor thousands of pieces of equipment at any given time and do so without replicating, repeating, manipulating through individuals that we have to have staffed in particular areas. We can have one individual in a control room monitoring the entire facility and understanding what's going on. So I'd like to give you a demo at this point of our SCADA. Good. So this is what our operational staff supervisors look at. This is a particular overview of the Hartford facility. You might see it as just a picture with a few numbers on it. For our operational staff, they look at that and understand in a quick glance what is going on in the facility. So we refer to this as our overview screen. From that, we'll navigate down into our headworks facility, an area of our plant that the supervisor, I'll say, wants to have a better understanding of what's going on in this particular area. So through SCADA, again, it narrows it down to a specific area, gives more information of what's happening. You drill down further into our influent pump station wet well. You can identify specifically what pumps are operating, the efficiency of the pumps, the output of the pumps, the wet well levels, and understand if changes or not need to be made. And we could drill from there to a control screen that the operators can look at, understanding what each of those values mean and make changes to perform efficient operations of the plant, and to make sure, going back to what I indicated in the beginning of the presentation, to establish that we can maintain that 200 MGD out of the facility. Navigating out of this particular area, go to another area. So I want to look at the incinerator overview. Or not.
There you go.
So there's our incinerator overview. It gives me a good idea of what's happening, what incinerators online, and good information. But I need to know more. I want to understand specifically what incinerator 2 is doing. So this is an overview of our incinerator 2. Gives you specific information, a lot of values, a lot of data that our operators are looking at on a daily basis, well, actually more than daily, on an hourly basis, and tracking that information for compliance. I can't see it, but I believe from here, you look up to your left, and I'm not sure if you can see it, but we talk a lot about CO of our incinerators. And our operators see that number in real time. They see that number in, I'll call average time. For compliance purposes, we're required to meet a certain number. So that value is displayed all the time. So those operators understand if they start to get slightly to the right of where they need to be, they can make adjustments to that incinerator. So it's an important parameter that we've established specifically with our consent decree recently for the incinerators. Before I get off of here, because I know Victoria's got to change, is there any questions regarding SCADA?
So what you were just seeing is actual live, this is the same screen that an operator at Hartford is looking at right now. So it's real live data that you're seeing from the control system.
Mr. Torres?
Two quick questions for you, Mr. Chairman. One is, are all of our pump stations operating on diesel? Is that correct?
We're going to talk about pump stations in the maintenance part because maintenance
Okay.
has that, but all of the pumps at the Hartford plant are electrically driven.
Okay. And my second question is, this is highly technical and really good engineering in terms of, the computerized operations, and it's fantastic. It's really amazing. Do we have redundancies in case we have issues that may arise?
We do for all of our different areas. We have multiple PCs. This is Scott LaRose. He primarily handles all of our SCADA kind of oversight. But we have multiple redundancies for all, not only redundancies for the SCADA, but redundancy in equipment if we had a problem. So we take that into consideration whenever we're designing or putting something together.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Anyone else? I have one, and that is, I'm a CO that comes from the plant. Obviously, this is a phenomenal mechanism to keep it down below where it should be. What are we running now as far as meeting the government's?
So our guideline is 52 parts per million. That's a 24-hour average. So we have to stay under that 52 for a 24-hour period. I can say for the months of January, February, we've done that. Our operators look at that. So if they start to teeter towards that 52 or even slightly over that 52 in any given period, they'll start to make adjustments to the incinerator to correct for that. So that's why they're watching that in real time and looking at those averages. So EPA requires the 24-hour average, so it's continual throughout the day. It's not any specific one point if we go over that 52. It looks at that 24-hour period.
And all three incinerators meet that?
Correct. Yep.
If you look at the live data point right behind you, it's 8.53. That's what it is right now. And we've talked before about the continuous emissions monitoring equipment that we have. That's live, real deal at 4:47, what's happening inside of that incinerator. Less than 10. The limit is 52.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, not a problem. So I have a question. I don't know if it's going to be directed exactly at you, but certainly Scott's in the room, so eventually it ends up there. So we have this SCADA system that I think one could assume is in operation 24/7. So, and optimally, it would continue in that time frame. However, if there had been, could be a disruption to that, how long approximately, and I'm not trying to get into the weeds really, but how long would it take to reinstate that system back online if it were to not be online for whatever reason?
Sure. So I'll answer it, and then I'll let
please.
Scott Rose talk about this, who's here tonight. We made a lot of significant changes, right? As you can imagine, prior to 2016, everybody over there on that side of the room did not trust IT and would not let the SCADA system be integrated and protected through the firewall system with the MDC's computer system, right? Would not, for good reason.
Yeah.
Because there wasn't the trust that the IT department could actually not mess it up. Right?
Yeah.
So it took a long time for this group on the other side of the room here to trust the work done by Bob Schwarm. I don't know if Bob's here, but and all of the hard work that's been done by IT to really protect our system through cybersecurity, because some of the biggest problems that you've had across the country, like I think it was Target, a lot of the cybersecurity that has occurred with large companies has been through the HVAC control system. So they didn't go to Target's bank and hack the bank. They went through the Johnson Control Systems that was controlling the air conditioning system for Target. So we say SCADA. SCADA is no different than Johnson Controls controlling a bunch of stuff in Target, right? So all of that infrastructure now in SCADA is protected and secured through our IT department, through our firewall system, thanks to our IT department and all the hard work done by our SCADA people. So, but Scott, you want to just talk about, or maybe
I'll let Scott talk, but first I'd like to say that the gentleman behind me, and I'd say the age of all of us, we were all brought up in the facilities that we operate the facility. If we were to lose SCADA, now it's not optimum, but we operate the facility manual. Years ago, that's how we had to operate the facility. So we don't lose the operation of the facilities because we lose SCADA. That's built in as we do these designs. Definitely an efficiency, but we can still operate the facilities. Scott?
I guess I'll just talk briefly on the redundancy and stuff for the SCADA system. Like Scott's mentioned, our group has grown with IT extremely, I mean, I can't even say how much, but we work together very much on the security of it because everybody knows how do you gain control of plants and everything else is through that SCADA system. And kind of more directly to your question about how long would it take for us to recover, through the system we've implemented now with IT and our VMware, backups are done continually, systems are backed up. I won't get into specific numbers, but for Hartford plant alone, there are in excess of 8 server systems that run Hartford plant that's got that system segmented so that any one system is not going to take down and interfere with the other. So, like Scott said, we've had that support now going forward that we have moved SCADA with the conjunction to IT through the firewall system, through encryption. All our tunnels are encrypted now. When gentlemen want to get remote access, they have to go through a secure, separate VPN system than the district's dealing with and stuff and everything else. So I don't know, I hope that answers your question clearly.
Yeah, very well. More than I need, but that's, thank you.
Sorry.
Thanks, Scott.
Thanks.
Commissioner Curry.
All right, so
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kind of a follow-up question, but, and specifically to Hartford, but it could be any of the facilities. Do we have the capability to, and with the Hartford, you'd mentioned the increase in use of natural gas. If for some reason we lose our connection to natural gas, do we have the ability to throw a switch and switch over to oil, or if natural gas becomes way more expensive than oil, do we have that capability?
So we have the ability to switch, not to oil, but we have the ability to switch. We have propane. So we have a 30,000 gallon propane tank, which is a supplemental fuel for just that if we have an issue with the natural gas to our incinerators. So we operate that on a monthly basis for testing, have it certified annually, and that's something we maintain the operation on.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner, for many years, we looked on a near daily basis and we played the propane market and the natural gas market on each other because there was a period of time those costs were quite close and we would burn whatever the cheaper fuel source was, but it hasn't been close in many years. Propane is just much more expensive on a unit basis than natural gas, so we don't really operate on the propane system unless there's a reason we need to test it and all that, then we'll do it to make sure it works. But natural gas on a unit cost is so much cheaper now, we've largely just used gas and not propane.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No?
Okay.
Thank you.
So shifting a little bit away from that technical portion, one of the other tools that the Hartford, I won't say the Hartford, the Water Pollution Control Facility has implemented is what we refer to as the EOM, the Electronic Operations Manual. You know, we put this into place and we ask ourselves, what's the problem with information that we currently have? What we found is it's hard to find information, and I'm speaking for the individuals at the facilities. It's hard to find information. We find information that's just apparently missing, information that's not up to date, and then we have a hard time capturing individuals that are retiring, individuals that retire that have niche tasks that we really haven't tracked, and they're getting ready to retire, and they're the only one that can do it. This helps us with that by creating SOPs and put it into this system. The solution, information in one place, so we don't have to look in closets, so we don't have to look in libraries within different facilities. The information is easily updated as things change from year to year, decade to decade. A single point of access, and it's available to everyone. It's not available to just one specific group, but available to our operations group, available to our maintenance group, available to our potential engineering group, for everybody to see in one glance. It captures the overall workforce knowledge of what's going on in our treatment facilities. One of the significant things when we started this program with our electronic O&M is we use the logbook portion of it, which I'm going to do a very quick demonstration. But the logbook portion of this was the first in Connecticut to get approval through DEEP to capture logs electronically. So our operators used to have a hard logbook they'd write in each of their different areas. Now they're actually logging into this, entering the log for their specific area. That information is seen by any one of us. So as a supervisor, these supervisors, Tom, they want to understand, hey, what was going on in this particular area? They can navigate to that very, very easily. Over the years with their various different upgrades, 200 training classes, over 100 SCADA workshops, we've used this tool to capture that information and dump it into here, from training videos, from miscellaneous operational tools for control strategies. So an abundance of information and a significant support tool, a significant tool to our new employees. Our new employees come in, they don't know our facility. So instead of our supervisors saying, hey, Joe, I want you to go out to our headworks area and understand what's going on, prior to sending that individual out, we can refer them to this EOM, has a big background and understanding what's going on. So when he does go out in the field, he'll have all that information kind of at his fingertips. We'll do a quick demo of the EOM. Thank you. So this looks very much like SCADA, but it's not SCADA. It happens to just be a graphics of our SCADA, and it gives us the ability to manipulate and understand where we want to go. So today I'm going to go to our preliminary area because that's where we talked about in our SCADA. I want to narrow down and go into a specific location of our headworks facility, our preliminary area. So at the very top, you'll notice that we have a series of tabs. Those tabs were created by collaboration with our staff. So when we implemented this program, we had a series of workshops with our staff, and we inquired of what they wanted to see in addition to what we wanted to see. So going across, and I'm not going to, you can read that, but going across, I'll pick out a few different things. Gives you a system description of the overall operation of what's going on. You can, just a quick glance, you can grab that information. Main components of our equipment within that area. So again, just valuable resource to not only the operators, but maintenance as well. System operations, how is it supposed to operate normally? SOPs, a big component to capturing individuals that are retiring and understanding what they're doing that they've been doing for many years, and we don't have documentation for it. Now you can pull this up. An operator, a maintenance individual can grab this SOP. He can be at his desktop, or he could be out in the field with a tablet. He could actually be on his phone and look at this SOP to review it to make sure everything's going correctly. Maintenance services allows you to bring up the O&Ms of different pieces of equipment. Design criteria, again, understanding what's in the facility. Troubleshooting component guide, great for our new operators. Safety element, you can pull out lockout, tagout procedures for a specific piece of equipment. If they have to work on it, they can refer to this as a guideline to understand what they need to lock out for safety. All the alarms in the facility, trends associated, you can click on this. And I'm not clicking on these because some of these take a minute to load for the sake of time here. But the one I will do that I find a of best use for our facility and for our staff is this training component. And I'm going to click on this. It's a couple second video that'll come up on our training.
All right, thanks everyone for coming. Good morning. My name is Jim Penn. I'm an Arcadius employee. I'm here with the part of the startup team to introduce you at a 10,000-foot elevation on what's going on your new Contract 20 facility. I know you've seen it come out of the ground. Today we're going to talk about specifically what its intent and how in the future you're going to be able to operate it. I realize that.
So that gives you an idea of what the capacity is. Any of our videos, current videos, are easily put into this EOM, so when we have a new operator or just operators that need a refresher, we can put them to this and have them watch these videos. The other component, and I mentioned about our operating logs, is this here. So this is live, as Tom pointed out. This isn't something I just put together as a presentation. This is live in EOM, so our operators, each and every shift for each of the area, notate items that are going on in the facility, have the ability. These are all the different logbooks. Now this is specifically for Hartford. We have this for our East Hartford facility, our Rocky Hill facility, and as soon as we do our upgrade at our Pequannock facility, we'll have it in Pequannock as well. We could switch it back. A quick story on the EOM. We had a new employee. We had to do some troubleshooting on a pump and its operation because we had one influent pump that failed. And that failure put everybody into action. Well, this new employee didn't know too much about what was going on with the influent pumps, but she knew enough because we talked about the EOM. So we're trying to troubleshoot the pump and getting this particular pump back up and running. She's at the computer to the left of us, logged into the EOM and looking at the procedures to try to understand if maybe we missed a step. And I just, at that point, I thought it was a great tool for a new employee, not only to recognize that tool that we could use, but she actively used it in helping us troubleshoot this particular pump. So I'd like to close my presentation with some pictures of our Hartford staff. Without their dedication, their day-to-day operations of our facilities, guided by our supervisors that are behind me, I don't think we'd be able to establish or achieve some of the successes we have over the last several years. Hartford staff, pictures of our East Hartford staff with Mark Kaika as the supervisor. Our Pequannock facility, Carl Valou as a supervisor. And our Rocky Hill facility with Bruce Lundy as a supervisor. That concludes my presentation. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Thank you very much. Any questions?
I always have one. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just like, Jeff, you did a great job, but I just want, I said this in my presentation, I'll say it again. Jeff is an example. Prior to 2006, we would never, Tom had Jeff's job, and that job, all of our manager levels require you to be either an engineer, PE, or an accountant, what have you. There was actually just a report yesterday that's talking about a number of large companies across the country are actually dropping their requirements for a college degree to actually hold certain positions. And MDC, really starting in 2006, we talk about succession planning, the best people to manage a operation are the people who actually operated it, right? And Jeff is just a great example of that, and we're very proud of him. He did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. So, unfortunately, Mike Zabolinski, the manager of maintenance, is out of town. He had a death in the family, and he couldn't be here tonight to do the presentation. So I'm going to run through Mike's, the presentation that we put together for maintenance, and we'll call upon our maintenance folks if there's any questions that I might not be able to answer. So a very similar story that we've seen in a lot of other groups within the facility. So we have staff of 54. The red line indicates the downward trend in staffing over the years. So we're operating at a pretty low staffing level compared to where we were in years past. Operating budget has increased, complexity of equipment, power controls because maintenance runs pump stations, and just general increase in cost of parts and things that we need to keep the facilities running. Everything, from paint to pumps, everything costs more, and so maintenance budget increases with the needs of the district. So our operating budget for 2023, $12.5 million. They work in some very challenging environments, safety first, and they have an outstanding safety record. So there's three main components that I mentioned initially for maintenance. When we talk about maintenance, we have central equipment. You might hear us talk about CEM. So CEM takes care of our fleet, which is much more than just vehicles. It's all the power equipment, all the different things that move within the district, vehicles, generators, all that. And there's two locations right now. Our main is on Murphy Road, where most of the CM employees are. We have a small satellite facility in Bark Hempstead. And there's two employees there right now, and it is interesting because the way the district is set up, we're not small and tight, all in a really close. Like, we have facilities that are pretty far away in Bark Hempstead, and we have vehicles there that need to be maintained. And we found over the years, it's just not efficient for us to be constantly shuffling vehicles, 40 miles down to Hartford, and then someone has to drive back to work, and 2 hours later, the oil change in that truck is done. Now someone has to go back and get it again. So we've recognized over the years that a small satellite facility to take care of vehicles and other, portable equipment in that location really fits us well. So the warehouse takes care of inventory. There are multiple locations, fewer than there were in years past, but that's their fundamental mission. And then we have facilities maintenance. This is what you would traditionally think of maintenance. But within the district, our maintenance group is a lot more than just maintenance. They're actually operations staff as well, because they are in charge of 100 pump stations. In a lot of utilities, the operations of pump stations would fall in the treatment plant. But again, the district has a lot of pump stations. And so you'd either have to have a much, much larger operations staff, but we've kind of developed over the years to the point where maintenance takes care of the operation and the maintenance aspect of the pump stations. There's a large map in the back. It didn't scale down good to PowerPoint, but I would encourage you to take a look, and it gives you a feel for how spread apart our pump stations are across the district. So in addition to pump stations, they take care of all the equipment at all the facilities, as well as the facilities themselves. So when we get a call from someone at headquarters that my office is too cold, it's too dim, it's too bright, it's too hot, that falls to the maintenance group to address. Electrical, mechanical, and instrumentation skill set, as well as many other related skills. So we have folks that can do carpentry, plumbing, masonry, machining, that full complement of skills in-house in maintenance.
I can interrupt you for a second.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Curry, could we go back to the first screen you showed? Okay, you've got the maintenance budget and staffing. On first glance, I would think a viewer would say the red line is staffing and the green line is the cost of the staffing, and that's not true, is it?
No, this is the overall O&M cost. It is not just staff
Kind
cost.
of a misleading graph. If the budget was just the staffing budget, it would make more sense, although it would be a concern, but it would make more sense. But it looks like you're trying to compare the staffing level with the overall cost of the entire budget, and I'm not sure that leads to any.
Well, I think, Commissioner, if I may, I think what it says in all departments is that by your budget going up, you're doing more, right? You're doing more.
We would hope.
Right, you're doing more. And so if you're doing more, why don't you need more staff, is really the point.
We're doing more efficient.
So you're spending more money, and some of that is due to escalation in cost, or some of it's due to We're fixing more stuff. We've got, we spent $600 million at the treatment plant, and that stuff, which we didn't have before, now has to be maintained. So why are we using less staff? That's kind of the
Well, that's my
logic.
point. You would mention, the cost of equipment, supplies, everything that goes into that operating budget, which really has nothing to do with staffing level. So that's just my concern, that if someone else is looking at this on the TV screen next week because it's being taped, they may arrive at a different perspective on what that may mean.
Yeah, okay, we can clarify that. But I'll just use a rough number. There's about $1 million and change of dollars a year that's in that budget that are widgets that we have to replace. They just wear out, you replace a little pump every year, right? And this group out here does that. So that's built into that budget. So the more things that are built, the more things that we have to get replaced, and we're doing it with less people, is I think the intent of it. But we can clarify that.
Commissioner Torres, yeah, that's why I had raised the question before, because I had the same concern, that it didn't correlate.
Sure, yeah, we can clarify
But
that for sure.
and the explanation is, clarifies all of that, but I think it's a disservice to the effort that is being made if it's misinterpreted, as there is no correlation. How can you, understand it? But, we understand, I think, with the explanation, but I think it has to be clarified.
Will do.
Anybody else?
So to go into a little bit of detail in those three areas. So central equipment maintenance, there's about 1,300 pieces of equipment in our fleet. Over 4,000 work orders were completed in 2022, and that's a completion rate of over 80%. And you might say, oh, well, that is 80% good. 80% is really good. So there are times when we have part delays because of COVID. We have times when there's simply the complexity of the repair requires us to take more time. So you might get a work order later in the year. The part takes 2 or 3 months to come in. Well, it may look uncompleted at the end of the year, but it gets completed, in the following year because they're over the calendar. So there's a lot of good causes, but this is a good rate for us. Of course, over time we have retirements and we have new staff coming in, and it takes a while for new staff to get up to speed. If we don't fill positions as quickly as we would like to, whether it's just lack of availability of staff, sometimes we go out to look for mechanics and there's simply not mechanics available. Sometimes we get lucky, we find some great new employees. So, sometimes the staffing levels play into the completion rate of the work orders as well. There's a little table over on the right that kind of breaks down the different classes of equipment, and I apologize, you can't quite see the numbers, but that's roughly the breakdown of the 1,300, and you should hopefully see that in your
Tom,
file.
before you move, I'd just like to call out Dave Hartley. So, Dave, can you stand up, please? You can sit down. Right. So this is just an example of what we've done, right? So at the operational presentation, we talked about we merged in 2015, we merged the operational departments. We had a repair crew and we had a sewer crew. And we had 2 superintendents. And so we had 2 assistant superintendents, and we had all this structure. And when we created the multitasking job description, we decided let's merge the 2 departments. We don't need 2 separate departments. We got 1 job title, let's merge them. So we merged them. So then I had an extra superintendent that I didn't need. That was Dave. And Dave and I worked a long time together in the sewer department, and we had one of our superintendents for the CEM retire. And I asked Dave, would you be willing to go over to run the CEM? Why? Because who better to fix the equipment and buy the equipment than the person who had to live with the equipment, right? So Dave took on that challenge for us, and that's, again, doing more with less, utilizing our resources that we have from department to another department. So, sorry, Dave, I didn't want to call you out, but Dave's getting ready to retire, and that's where EGWOP comes in. Stand up.
How you doing?
Succession plan.
He looks like the senator from Pennsylvania.
So you could see from the table on the right, the different types of equipment that we have, everything from small pickups and vans, large excavators, dump trucks. We have a lot of very large equipment. So, it's not like a typical car dealer where they're all light-duty vehicles that might come in and out. Our guys can work on virtually anything from the small cars to really big pieces of equipment. So you have to have a real diverse skill set. This is not just Jiffy Lube where they're coming in and out for an oil change. This is very significant. Working on a backhoe or a diesel engine is very different than a gasoline engine or a chainsaw and that, but they take care of all that equipment. So per the report, the management report talked a lot about this vehicle maintenance and some of the things that we've done. I'd mentioned about the one facility in Bark-Hempstead. We used to have also one at West Hartford Filters, and we recognized that, that's kind of close enough that maybe we didn't need to have separate staff there, and that we could take some of that workload and put it into the Hartford facility where our main garage is. So, we've gone through a lot of those recommendations and acted on them. For example, in 2019, we began to outsource body work. So we have a lot of vehicles. Occasionally we have little fender benders, and that's a really specific skill set. So we might go a really long time without having an accident that needs to go to the body shop, yet you're employing a body shop person. So we decided that it made better economic sense for us to certain workloads that we would just go to the outside and not maintain this skill set in-house. So we've done a lot of things like that. As you know, the vehicles have become very high-tech, right? If you open up the hood of your car, it looks very different now in 2023 than it did 15 years ago, than it did 20 or 30 years ago. And we have to be able to keep up with the technology to repair the newer vehicles, but also the employees have to have that skill set. So it's technology and skills coming together. They have a huge workload, and it's pretty complicated in CM, and they do a fantastic job. We do data gathering, so we talk about big data and analytics and how you do it. This is a very highly orchestrated approach to maintenance. So we gather vehicle information. Every time a car goes to either get gasoline or diesel, we're gathering information from it. We also have the ability to get that analytical data, and it helps drive the preventative maintenance or know that something is about to happen. So very, very high-tech approach to maintaining the fleet. Testament to our folks as well is, we like to keep our vehicles fairly new, and Dave Hartley and his group have done an excellent job at developing metrics about the cost to maintain per mile. And so we have certain triggers that we will look at with common sense applied to determine when we want to get rid of a vehicle and replace it with a new vehicle. And our vehicles draw top dollar at auction. Sometimes we're amazed at the money that we get for our old used trucks, because people know when it has that MDC logo attached to it, it has been very well maintained. And we get top dollar for our vehicles in auction, about $200,000 a year from our used vehicles in auction.
Tom, you want to talk quickly about auction? So prior to 2015, we used to auction our vehicles ourselves. And you can imagine all the problems that would come through that. So I asked Kelly to, we started utilizing the state procurement process for auctioning vehicles like the state does. And now all of our vehicles are auctioned through the state protocols. So MDC staff is not involved whatsoever. But to your point, a lot of the big construction companies and towns even love MDC vehicles because we take such good care of them.
So here's just a few pictures to give you a feel for some of the equipment that we look at: generators, small vehicles, large vehicles. You can see welding being done, on the bucket for an excavator. So we have a very large skill set within our CEM group. And here's a picture of the staff. at Hartford, and to the right is our Bark-Hempstead CEM staff. So the warehouse. The warehouse plays an absolutely critical role in keeping the district running. So all the parts that we need for operations, pipe, hydrants, the fittings, you saw the water meters in a prior meeting, the parts at WPC that we need, all the pump stations. So every part is going to come through the warehouse function. So they need to make sure we have the right part when we need it. 5 years ago, that wasn't as big of a challenge as it was when COVID started, and suddenly we couldn't get certain parts. And I have to say, Steve Zuffalato, supervisor of the warehouse, and his folks have done an absolutely incredible job finding us parts and getting them, and we haven't had a loss of treatment because of unavailability of parts. So I put a little example up there on the bullet. So we ordered water meters last October, and they're going to be shipping in November of this year. So 13 months later, the shipment comes in. So it used to be, how long, Steve, when you would order to get meters?
3 or 4 months maybe.
Yeah. Now, 3 or 4 months has turned into 13 months. And our customers don't want to care that we don't have the part. We have to have it. So we have been able to work the supply chain really hard, collaboration with our finance folks and purchasing, and be able to make sure that we have inventory. Our numbers might not always be as high in stock as we'd like, but we haven't run out of anything. And we've even had other utilities come to us when they've run out and they can't get a part they need for 6 months or a year, and they're in really bad shape. So we occasionally will make an interagency loan of a part.
And I think, I don't know the exact date, but prior to 2010, Gary, we used to have 3 separate independent inventory groups. You can imagine that.
Consolidated.
And we consolidated all the inventory under our maintenance department.
So earlier, Scott made a comment about the increase in the budget can be due to the parts. And because we have more equipment now than we've ever had, and it's more complex equipment. So you have to have the parts for it, and those parts, especially electronics, are quite expensive. In 2022, the warehouse had over 3,600 transactions of parts going out for repairs, and the value of those parts was about $6 million. So back to the management report, there was a lot of things that were referenced about organization, how we should be organized. If you've ever had an opportunity, and you can see from some of the pictures, our warehouses are absolutely in good order. They are well organized, and it is credit to our staff of how they've taken due diligence to keep everything in really good working order within them. One of the things they started doing a few years ago is these lock boxes. So there's certain repairs and operations that are kind of standard, and you need a fitting, you need whatever parts needed for a certain repair. They started kind of kitting those parts. And we used to have operations staff 24/7, just in case something happened. We've largely gotten away from that. We do have one person on third shift. We have none on first. But a lot of times operations has the ability to self-serve for common repairs. And that has reduced a lot of overtime. We don't have someone sitting around waiting for a pipe to break. A lot of continuous improvement has happened in maintenance, and we really don't ever have downtime because of lack of availability of parts. So, and that's credit to our folks in the warehouse. And there's a couple pictures. If you've ever driven by Murphy Road, Max Road, you see that big red building with that wonderful new roof that we just put on it. The picture in the middle on the bottom, that's what's inside of it. So we have different earth materials that we'll store in there. Pipes in the field, there's the cast iron, PVC, parts in the warehouse. You can see the good order, and that's the warehouse staff in the upper left. This is not a staff of 25 that takes care of all these parts. It's just a few folks in warehouse. So, maintenance, what we traditionally think of. So there's really three types of maintenance that we perform. A preventative maintenance, triggered typically by time, consumption, flow, hours. So to put it in simple terms, the manual on your car says change your oil every 3,000 miles. Doesn't matter how you drove those 3,000 miles. Doesn't matter if those 3,000 miles were over a month or 6 months. Every 3,000 miles, you trigger an oil change. You may or may not actually need that to be done. But that's an example of a preventative, right? You're trying to maintain the health of your engine. Predictive. This is more of a just-in-time. It's triggered by a condition. So for us, we might take a sample of oil from a piece of equipment. And some of our big pieces of equipment, they don't measure the oil in quarts, it's in gallons. 30, 40, 50 gallons of oil in a gearbox. Well, you don't want to change that oil just because today's the 8th, it's the time. So we'll take a sample, we send it out to a lab, they'll analyze it, they understand the metallurgy of the piece of equipment, and we can match up what we know the oil should be to what the report says the oil is, and we can determine, don't need to change it, or we need to change it, or maybe we might trigger a repair because there might be a high bronze or a high certain metal element in the oil that tells us we know that metal is coming from this part that is about to fail, so we're going to take it down in a calm manner and make a repair. We can order the part, we can do it in a very efficient basis. So there's a lot of other predictive tools that we have. There's thermography, where we look at the heat signature of equipment. There's vibration analysis, because vibration typically, if you're a mechanical engineer, you understand that vibration is not a good thing. We don't like equipment vibrating, and we're going to have a little demonstration on that in a few minutes. And then finally, the corrective. That's our least favorite, because that means something has broke, or we have a loss of capacity for some reason, and it requires some investigation on why we've lost capacity, and then we have to put a plan together of how we are going to fix that piece of equipment. So many, many years ago, there was the mentality of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a terrible approach to maintenance. That is the 100% corrective, don't maintain it approach. That's very old school, and decades ago, the district operated that way. We've largely want to get out of that mode because preventative and predictive is cheaper and more efficient than fixing.
And if you read the report of 2003, it's because the MDC didn't want to spend any money to build new stuff. They felt it was really important that the debt service was really, really low, which was great. But that means you had to fix everything under emergency, under overtime. So fixing stuff that breaks requires you to be proactive. But in 2003, the report was saying how great it was that MDC was under budget and staying within budget, but they weren't spending any money. There was no investment in the infrastructure.
So one of the other big functions that maintenance serves, as I mentioned before, is they actually not only maintain but operate the water and sewer pump stations and take care of the water tanks and basins. And so the table, you can see where in the district and the water towns that we serve in Glastonbury and Farmington, where these water pump stations and sewer pump stations are. We get a lot of alarms. They're all connected to SCADA. We're gonna give you an opportunity in a minute to see that. So we get call out, we get alarms, and we have to understand what those alarms are. And you can see in 2022, we had about 300 alarms that required human thought. Is this something that I need to do right now? Can this wait? What's the severity, the magnitude of that alarm? And as you would guess, we get more pump fail alarms than any others because we're running the pump stations. So right now, Scott LaRose is going to come up and just give you a real brief glimpse of the live SCADA system that runs our pump stations. Are you due for that, Scott? So again, like we saw before, this is live on our SCADA system, completely secured, but it will give you a feel for what the maintenance staff looks at when they use SCADA to operate pump stations.
While that's loading, 2015, we negotiated with 2 unions. 184, which is our labor union, we used to have electricians, just electricians. And in 3713, where Scott runs the group for SCADA, we had 2 separate groups, one SCADA group and one electrician group, 2 different unions. Problem was, it was a promotion for our electricians to go into SCADA. So we negotiated, finally, with the 2 groups to, now the electricians are no longer part of 184 and now part of 3713 with a multitasking job description. Go ahead, Scott.
I won't take up much time here because I know we're running a little behind, but this is a system that again, Tom mentioned, our maintenance and our command center staff uses to monitor all of our pump stations, whether they're meter pits, tanks, and they can even monitor the treatment plants. But I'll just give you a quick view of like one of our water plants in Glastonbury, is Buckingham Water Pump Station. The ability for us to be able to view this whole station, how it's running, to see discharge pressure, suction pressures, flow at that station is critical to not only just our operation, but for alarming. It tells us how the station's operating when we go and look at a trend for a certain station during alarming or during a storm event, for example. We can tell how a certain pump station is running by looking at the trend for the well. We can tell pump performance and whether that pump is operating normal or not. But this system does control and monitor all of our water pump stations, wastewater pump stations, meter pits. And again, this system also is monitoring our drinking water plants all the way to Barkhamsted was water supply, but that'll be in a different session. Excuse me. And that's all I really had for that. I'll keep it short. If anybody has any questions on it, I'd be glad to answer.
Scott, you want to talk about the fact that you or your staff can respond from home with this technology if we have to?
Yeah, so the ability that Scott's talking about is my laptop and the other technicians' laptops are set up, and again, talking about the IT connection, but we have a secure tunnel in to the district that we're able to respond to alarms and activities both at our pump stations and at all of our plants, including Hartford, the satellite plants, all the way up to water supply, that we can react to alarms and help provide guidance, and in some cases can get involved in direct operation of that facility to recover from that alarm and or to help in some cases for any possible violation that we might have had, whether it was getting a pump station back online, because just not the SCADA system gives us that, we also have control of all the PLC hardware and stuff that we can monitor again remotely, securely, and help with operations staff. So.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Scott.
So I'm really happy as we're switching back that the technology is working. We did practice a couple times. You know, it's always a iffy proposition when you're switching in and out when you're within WebEx. So we have one more switch coming up. Hopefully it'll happen. So again, not to read all the bullets because you have this information. So we've spent a lot of time over the years capturing the knowledge that we have. We have a lot of formal documents that we've prepared about how to respond to certain emergencies, how pump stations should be run, what do you do in the weather, all these different things. So, you know, we're just like WPC, we're trying to get our arms around this incredible amount of knowledge and information that we have, not only for the current workers, because most of them already know what to do, but, you know, trying to prepare for the next wave of workers that come in that expect everything digital. You know, like my kids don't know books, they know phone. And so we're trying to prepare ourselves for that next generation to come in and the expectations they have that everything is digital, everything is available, everything is a video, everything is, you know, nice and polished. So we spend a lot of time gathering info along the way, trying to help get us ready for that transition. So we do a lot of improvements at the pump stations, typically 3, 4, 5, 6 small projects a year to do pump replacement, control panel replacement, something that is too small for a contractor to want to bid on and try and make money. And so we do these, small improvements in-house, and our staff has done an incredible job of improving these pump station infrastructure over the years. So we just talked about the SCADA. One of the things that I do want to talk about specifically the project is these CSO panels. So, we have a lot of regulatory reporting requirements, and we try and adopt the technology on the panels. Sure. And so our staff has built a very large number of these panels. And so the panel is just might appear to you to be a box. And you open it up, and there's the switches and different things on the inside, and then inside the box of the panel is the intelligence, the controller that's gathering information from that pump station or that facility and telling something to happen or not happen, and reporting that data back and recording that data so we have it for deep reporting procedures. So this just kind of gives you a view of a panel. This is a pump station panel that our folks have the in-house capabilities to do this level of work. And if we had to hire a contractor to build one of these, it would be very, very expensive. Because the contractor, by the time we get an engineer and we design it and we put it out and we open bids and the contractor can't make money on a relatively small value thing like this, but our staff has built, and I will tell you the quality of work that our staff put together on this panel right here is at least as good, if not better, than any of the contractor work that we have done.
Much better.
Right? Better?
Much better.
So one of the other technologies I mentioned in the bullet about the predictive is a laser alignment. And so Tom Matthew, our superintendent, is just going to kind of talk you through what that means. And we have a big wrench and a little wrench that we
A couple things.
wanted to show you. So we're just going to let Tom go for a minute.
Thanks, Tom. I'm Tom Matthew, been with the district just over 30 years now. Just to touch base real quick on what Scott and Tom said, when I started, it was crisis management. There was nothing in play. We went and did a few repairs until something blew up and broke, throw people and money at it. Through the past 30 years, we've come a long way. PM programs, oil and nows, like Tom mentioned, vibration and nows. So we saved the district a lot of money by doing this. I'm just going to represent the facility maintenance mechanics side of the house. Scott already represented the technicians and electricians side. I'll start with just a couple of wrenches. So we can work with anything from here to here and in between. With pipe wrenches, big one, combination wrenches, sockets, ratchets, in a wide range. Don't misunderstand me, the mechanics aren't just wrench turners. They're very highly skilled individuals, just like the technicians and electricians. They have welding certification. They do a lot of troubleshooting, problem solving, fabrications, and machining. So, great small group of guys, and we have a big footprint to take care of. Here's an example here. This is naval bronze. This came out of a Rotork gate valve, motorized gate valve. This is a sacrificial part that wears. When this wears, the threads inside pretty much disappear. We try to catch it before that happens. We can order this, but when it comes in, it usually doesn't fit. So to put this back in the lathe, trying to get a board bar lined up with these Acme threads, it's a nightmare. You don't even want to go there. So what we do is we order what we call a blank. We'll bring it in and we machine it all in-house. Wow. If you order, like I said, already machined, it could be several weeks plus to get it, and it doesn't fit anyway. So we have the capability of doing all the machining. We don't break the machine down. They can take this part and go try it. If it's tight, they come back, they set it back up, take another 15 thousandths off until it fits nice. And the turnaround time for us to do this, on a good day, 5 hours. On a bad day, 8 hours. So it's a pretty good turnaround. Typically what happens when this starts to fail, and that's $400 savings also, by doing it in-house. And being in a member town, me, I kind of like the savings. So Mike Fusick behind me will get a notification, turn it into a work order. Mechanic will go out to the valve stem. This is an Acme pitch gauge. Now he's got to find the right pitch on the stem. Now he knows what to set his machine on. So he can come back, set his machine all up to do this thread. It's not rocket science, but it's time consuming. The talent we have, actually, let me just take this down a little bit. They also machine this fixture. And this fixture is for laser alignment training. And laser alignment, and I'll button this up with why we even use lasers. But this side here is considered the motor side. Anything, the center is a coupling. Can you see this? The center is a coupling that can come all apart. The right side is the motor, which is the movable side. The left side is the fixture. So that can be either compressor side, the pump side, the blower side, the fan side. You get the idea. So, and I'm missing a fixture in here, but I'll just walk through it real quick so you can get an idea. Comes with a nice little iPad. Everything's cordless. Technology's good. So you basically take these guys, a chain gets wrapped around and holds them on, one on the movable side, one on the fixed side. You grab your heads, these are the laser lights. One has a fixed side, it's identified, one has an M for movable side. So that would go onto those two towers. Once that's set up, you turn your iPad on, and it's going to prompt you to, it wants some information, it wants some measurements. Center line to center line on the motor, enter. Center line to your center post, put it in, enter. And then post to post, put it in, enter. Then it's going to instruct you to rotate 90 degrees to the right. And the right, you always look at the motor from the back. So that's to the right. So you lay those heads down. Then you just go nice and slow. And as soon as you get your target, it's going to have a green check. Hit enter. Then it's going to tell you to go 180, do the same thing. Enter. Now it's live. You return it back to 12 o'clock. Now you got all live readings. It's going to tell you right front, add 15,000 Shen, or whatever. So we have stainless steel Shens, all different thicknesses, and you just do what it prompts you to do. Tighten it all down, and even tell you to tighten it down. So once you're all done, it has a separate screen that will pop up. You look on the motor tag, the RPMs, say 1750. You look on the chart, and it tells you what's acceptable range and what isn't. So you might have to add a few more shims, take a few shims out, whatever. Much, much quicker with laser than the old-fashioned way, like I used to do it. And I'll button that up. So when I started here, we had dial indicators, straight edges, and a tape measure. That's how you did your alignments. You can get just as precise as a laser, but it takes forever. And what happened back in those days, you'd be trying to align this thing, you're into it for 45 minutes, it's just like close enough attitude, tighten it down and you leave. So, if you recall on slide 12, electricity is the largest component of energy use and energy expenses. The district operates thousands of pieces of electrical equipment, ranging from large pumps to automated instruments and control processing equipment. So why lasers are better for alignment? After years of successful use, it is now established a fact that lasers are simply the best tool for performing the most accurate shaft, pump, and motor alignments in the shortest possible time. Up to 20 times higher measurement resolutions. Even if that iPad broke, you can download a free app right off your phone. You can align that thing off your phone. Technology is incredible. 60 to 70% faster alignment than the indicator-based methods. Automatic calculation and alignment results, shim and move values without having to use graph paper and calculators like I used to have to. Easy to follow screens to guide you through the alignment. Saving on training and costs. So back to the training that Jeff was talking about, we also have many training sessions that videographer came in. We have professional training on it. We taped it, and for new employees, we can show that. Now we have a fixture also. They can have a hands-on training. Automatic data taking with hundreds of data points versus a max of 4 points with indicators. Increase in accuracy and speeding up alignments. Live move data, like I explained, everything's live, to help you align the motors quicker, eliminating guesswork. Eliminates indicator bracket sag, and when you use this, you can actually print alignment reports. You can track trends. You can save it. You can send it to your computer in your office. You can share it with others. The 4 alignment parameters, and I failed to share with you, the 4 parameters that you're looking for are the vertical and horizontal angularity, which is this, and then the offsets, which is this, both directions. So taking the time to accurately align our machinery will reduce costs and increase reliability. Misalignment costs are serious, serious money. Like Tom said, he spoke, and Jeff spoke a lot about energy savings and costs. Misalignment increases, bearing and seal wear, and leads to premature failures. It also increases power consumption of motor, increasing electrical costs. For example, studies show that a 3,000 RPM motor, an increase in the coupling, that center coupling there, if I just open that coupling 15 thousandths, which is like 5 sheets of paper, it can cause the motor power consumption to rise 4%. It's a pretty incredible amount. Multiply that by hundreds of machines. So increased alignment accuracy has been shown to reduce maintenance costs up to 7%. Increase bearing and seal life by up to 8 times. Increase machine availability by up to 12%.
reduce energy costs by 5 to 12%, significantly increase coupling life. So, quick story. When I first started, well, it's probably over 20 years ago, was our very first alignment, laser alignment tool. We bought it through Fiber Align. The rep came in to train us on it. He shared a story with us. He says his company went down south to an oil refinery, sat down with the top brass and said, listen, you let us come in, and anybody who knows anything about oil refineries, there's hundreds and hundreds of pumps and motors. They said, you let us come in, we'll align every piece of equipment, free. Our payment would be, we'll come back in a year, whatever energy savings you have, that's our payment. Drew up a contract, they agreed, they went back a year later, well over $1 million the payment was. So it adds up. Other technologies that we use in this department, thermal imaging, ultrasound, radar, SCADA, as Scott already talked on. Matter of fact, we have a meeting next week, outside vendor coming in. We're going to sit down and discuss condition monitoring system. Right now we have a contractor comes in, does all our vibration analysis. This is a standalone system. Wireless sensors. You can put them on the pumps, put them on the motors. They even have heat sensors. You can put them on VFDs, and you can monitor 24/7 right from here, or your computer. We can cut the contractor out. If we replaced, if we put sensors on, I did some quick math, if we put the sensors on all the equipment we currently check, which is all the critical equipment, our payback would be just over 2 years to get our payback if we invested in this. But I'll let you know how that goes, that meeting. Is there any questions?
Tom, when you started, what was your starting job description?
When I first came to the district, first of all, it took me almost 2 stinking years to get my foot in the door. I called Russ Manilaw until he got mad, and then, you know, back and forth, Bill Flemke, and yeah, so I came in as a POIT, plant operator in training, just to get my foot in the door, because I looked down the road where I wanted to be.
Now you're the superintendent.
And this is where I wanted to be.
Good.
So I've been in maintenance actually for 29 years. So.
Good job.
No questions, not hearing any, I yield back to you. Thank you.
So the last top from the maintenance management study, they talked a recommendation about decentralizing maintenance, and there's a lot of good reasons that we didn't do this. For us in our setup and our locations and being water and sewer, in a decentralized mode, we'd fundamentally need more staff, especially considering our separate locations, you know, between Barkhamsted and West Hartford and East Hartford and all that. And one of the downsides of having the decentralized theory is you don't get that training across multiple disciplines and multiple facilities. So this was a recommendation, and we did not adopt this for a lot of good reasons that I think are still very valid. The last topic in the management study talked about a camera system, and so the district has a very, very highly advanced camera system. We have about 300 cameras around the district. In respect to time, because we still have to do the EH, we were going to demo this live. We're going to forego that, but we have cameras all over. We're able to see facilities. We can see who's in the parking lot in front of Seville Dam. We can see inside a building. So we use it not only for security, but also process control. So in the middle of the night at the Hartford plant, when there's only 2 operators, maybe 3, rather than walking around an 85-acre facility to look at something that is not on SCADA, they might just be able to click on a camera and they can see things. So we use this for security as well as process control. We're in the early phases of a very significant upgrade to our camera system, changing vendors, not through a choice of our own. Someone exited the American market, a little bit of a shock to us, so we're upgrading our technology. But we are always staying on top of technology and how to deploy this. We have the ability to take a camera if we had, for example, a leaking pipe that an operator wanted to be able to watch, but they didn't want to have to stand in a gallery and watch a leaking pipe to make sure the condition wasn't getting worse overnight, so we don't have to call in staff on overtime. And they look at the camera every once in a while, yeah, everything looks good, move on, saves us a lot of money. So with that, I just real quick want to show you some pictures that we put together of our staff and the variety of work that they do. Some of our electronic and instrumentation folks pulling cables at the back of the Hartford plant, working on everything from small valves to really big pumps. The picture on the right actually shows staff using the laser alignment tools, aligning a pump and a motor. One of our pump stations, removing an old grinder and installing a new one. Working on the Hartford solids processing, our dissolved air flotation thickeners. So for a wrap-up of facilities, very quickly, I would just like to say we have some really impressive infrastructure. We have great technology. Hopefully that's evident. And we have outstanding results. But we don't get the outstanding results unless we have really good staff. So the staff are the ones that take advantage of the technology and the infrastructure to give us the results that we enjoy on a day-to-day basis. So is there any questions related to the facilities group? Because we want to get the EH&S presentation in. Thank you very much.
Just real quick while it's coming up, just a testament of all the hard work that all these departments do. I'll give you an example of a recent emergency, and everyone in this room has had to deal with emergencies, whether it's a sludge line breaking in the basement of WPC and addressing that in really quick time, or water main break, sewer collapse, whatever it may be. It's a district effort to address these things. So most recently we had the 54-inch transmission main break next to I-84. When I first got the call, I figured it was going to be a really bad Thursday. But when it really came down to it, everyone essentially in this room, every single department had a role in that, whether it was Dave Hartley, Dave Egloff, finding a part, all the parts we needed in about 2 hours in Illinois, and by the end of the day, those parts were on a truck. So inventory had a part of that. Maintenance had a part. In all these emergencies, that SCADA system, whether it was 130 leaks in January of 2018, I spent hours on that SCADA system, see what the trends were, see where we were happening, where we were losing water, where were the tanks not recovering. All that's coming from these individuals providing that, making sure that equipment's running at 24/7. What also came out of that 54-inch leak, when it rains, it pours, right? So I got a phone call from Tom, I think, that Saturday. This was about 2 days after the break. Hey, we might have a problem at Reservoir 6. Well, we did have a problem. And I think it's a testament of the folks, and I think Scott LaRose got called and he was on vacation, quickly addressed it, but our staff went out there, operated the facility without SCADA until it was back on. So our staff were able to quickly adjust on that. And again, when it rains, it pours. Later that week, before we put the water main back online, we had a large 12-inch distribution main off Willard Ave in Newington popped underneath the brook. All of a sudden, we were sort of teetering with all our tank levels and everything. Next thing you know, we saw something drop pretty quickly. We were able to address it fairly quickly. I want to say about 45 minutes, we found the leak, shut it down. All through SCADA, though. We were looking at what was happening in the system, what was going on with this tank, why was Newington tank dropping so quickly. So we were actually able to get in the vicinity of where that leak was. If it wasn't for that, we would have been chasing all the miles of pipe that we have in our system, trying to find out where that is. But we were able to quickly, we found it in about 30 minutes, took care of it in about another 15 minutes after that. And then immediately after, which was probably one of the best stories about this, was probably that day, we made an adjustment to our SCADA system to address the surge issue that we found. So these are all the departments working together, everything that these guys do, the ladies do in these departments to push this stuff through, provide us the information, address issues as they come up. It's a testament of sort of the teamwork and the capabilities that we're able to bring up through all these years of everyone learning what their jobs are and rising up and through succession planning. So Craig Scott, we're going to go to EH&S. Perfect example of succession planning. 16 years, Craig? 16 years. Started as an engineer, came from a ton of background on compliance, large facilities, came into the district, basically was responsible for a lot of our permit compliance on the EH&S side, worked very closely with Tom and his staff with everything that has to get reported to all the regulators. But Craig was promoted and well-deserved through manager of EH&S. We did have, I think Sally was about almost 30 years at the district, 28, 29? 25 years. 25. She left recently. Craig slipped into the position really, really well, so I'll turn it over to Craig Scott. Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Good evening, I'm Craig Scott. As Chris mentioned, just go over a little bit about what Environment, Health, and Safety Department does. So our mission statement, the EH&S department is committed to ensuring the health and safety of MDC staff and customers, protecting the environment through compliance with OSHA, DEP, EPA regulations, and providing effective guidance and training. So in the management study, one of the things that came through with that was to transfer EH&S over to the operations department with some guidance to develop SOPs for departments to be utilized as a support department for all departments in the organization, address environmental compliance objectives and maintain worker safety, develop standard procedures for worker safety and new environmental challenges under the Clean Water Project, with additional safety staff extended to the use of consultant services. EH&S was to evolve to address new permitting requirements for air, soil management, permitting related to contaminated and polluted soils being excavated on construction projects, and operational work activities, and address industrial user discharges with the inherence of DEP functions, as well as stormwater management for MDC facilities. The EH&S department was established in 2001, relatively new. We're a small group. We have one manager, me. We have one environmental specialist, Andrew Parham. We have two great safety specialists, Mark Nelton and Andrew Spitz. And we have help for the HHW assistance from the CEO clerk, Ellen Tedford. So EH&S manages air permits, water permits, wastewater permits, facilities spill prevention and control and countermeasure plans, stormwater pollution prevention plans, facilities waste disposal and underground storage tanks, safety training and reporting, and the household hazardous waste program. So for air compliance, we have Hartford Water Pollution Control as a major air source. We have 3 new source review permits that are issued by DEP, one for each sewage sludge incinerator with over 80 regulatory requirements for each permit. There's 3 2,500 kilowatt emergency generators there and one 1,000 kilowatt emergency generator for UV. The whole facility, because it's a major source, has to have a Title V permit, which is a EPA permit that regulates the whole facility as one. And it has over 700 regulatory requirements associated with that. And EH&S helps Jeff and Tom meet all those requirements for that permit. EH&S also has help in the annual emission statement, where we have to calculate all the emissions for the facility. We have to do semi-annual reports for DEP and EPA. We have an annual Title V compliance report where we have to look at all those 700 requirements and make sure that we meet all those particular compliance items. And then we already talked about the continuous emission monitoring system for carbon dioxide and oxygen. There's also reporting requirements with that. And then once every other year, DEP comes down. That's not enough. They come down and they do an inspection for 5 to 7 days to look at all of our permits and all of our reports. So for the air compliance emissions summary, this is a summary of the incinerator, the 3 incinerators, the 3 2,500 kilowatt generators, and the 1,000 kilowatt generator. This is a summary of all the emissions from those sources. And as you can see, the trend is going down. And the emissions reductions are due to improved incinerator controls, the SCADA system like these guys are talking about. The installation of the CO SEMS monitoring system that helps control the combustion, or for the operators to control the combustion of the incinerators. And also we decommissioned 5 diesel effluent pump engines. So those engines are now electric. So there's a reduction in emissions for that. So water compliance. For the MDC facilities, EH&S helps to prepare permit applications. We have 4 National Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, or NEPDES, permits for the water pollution control facilities. Those have to be renewed every 5 years. We have 3 comprehensive wastewater general permits for Reservoir 6, Collinsville, and Goodwin Hydro for that discharge to surface water. We have a significant industrial user wastewater permit for Reservoir 6, which is for their residuals that go to the sewer. And then we've submitted an individual wastewater permit for West Hartford filters for their discharge to the Trout Brook. For industrial wastewater discharges, EH&S reviews all the industrial facilities in the MDC sewer. So there's over 700 industrial facilities that discharge to our sewer. They're covered under either the DEP miscellaneous industrial wastewater general permit. Those are smaller facilities, less than 25,000 gallons per day. Or the DEP significant industrial user wastewater general permit. That's for greater than 25,000 gallons per day, and for facilities that are metal finishing. There's also individual industrial sewer discharge permits for facilities that don't fit into that, like Saputo Dairy Foods in Newington. And then we have groundwater remediation. Those are kind of, every once in a while we'll have a gas station that has to discharge groundwater while they're pulling off a tank or something like that. So they'll discharge that to the sewer. EH&S is also responsible for the spill prevention control and countermeasure plans and stormwater pollution prevention plans for the facilities. These are required for our facilities that have a certain amount of on-site fuel or oil storage. So EH&S updates those plans per DEP requirements. We help coordinate stormwater monitoring and sampling for our facilities. For operations, we coordinated with engineering to install a storm scepter control for a better stormwater BMPs. The facility inspections, the facility does inspections of those chemical storage and stormwater, and those get submitted to EH&S for review. And we do annual training for facility staff for all those facilities. Underground storage tanks. So the underground storage tank, we've had, we started out with quite a bit, but we've made an improvement on the closures. We replaced a lot of them with above ground storage tanks, reduces the regulatory burden and liability to the MDC. And eventually we're going to replace all the USTs with above ground tanks or some sort of alternative energy source. So in total, we removed 53 tanks, underground storage tanks. We got 3 remaining. We have 2 at Pequannock and 1 at East Hartford. The one at East Hartford is going to be removed sometime this spring. We have MDC soil management, so capital sewer and water pipe projects, past practice. Contractors are responsible for polluted soils, which included finding a soil disposal site and for finding clean backfill providers. This resulted in different site conditions and unanticipated change orders and scheduling delays. So our current program, EH&S is working with technical services and engineering. We take the excavated soil, is taken to a soil management facility and sampled for lab analysis. Classify the soil as clean, polluted, or contaminated according to DEP regulations. Then you can recycle clean and polluted soil per DEP reuse regulations, which creates lower design and disposal costs. And then we can buy back that recycled soil material to use backfill at a fraction of the price. So far, the savings are approximately $800,000 per year. And then since 2018, when we started the program, we've saved over $4 million.
Just a comment on that. That allows us to reinvest that $800,000 and do more water main out of the same budget that we were always proposing on that 10 miles. So that allowed us to get to that 10 miles quicker.
EH&S also developed an operator can crushing procedure and staff training for the proper disposal of used paint cans. We generate about 2,500 used paint cans for markouts a year. So the used paint cans are crushed, metal is recycled, waste paint is disposed as a regulated waste with an annual savings of about $24,000 a year. For facilities, we help them with their waste as well. So some of our facilities generate used fluorescent bulbs, electronics, batteries, to use paint, oil, solvents. So we help coordinate the disposal of those. We also have stormwater catch basin grit. Our operations team goes out, cleans catch basins. They bring it back to the yard, put it into this area that's designed to dry out the grit, and then we dispose of that at Manchester landfill. Safety training. EH&S provides specific safety training to our staff depending on their field of work and hazards that they may encounter. 2017, EH&S moved to an online training system that everyone can access on their computer, and it helps out with legal compliance training requirements. In 2022, EH&S assigned approximately 7,500 online training classes to our staff, but that's not enough, so we have to do some in-person training. So we've had about 33 in-person training classes for approximately 500 staff. This included first aid, CPR, AED, confined space entry, excavation and trenching, lockout, tagout, forklift operator evaluations, work zone design, shirt duration work zone, record DOT, waste shipping paperwork, and electrical safety. Currently, we track our monthly requirements for training, and we're about 90% compliant with all of our training. It's an ongoing thing as we staff completes training, we add more training, so it's an ongoing thing.
The red is me.
We're on a good trend with our OSHA recordable injury. Over the past 20 years, we've gone down significantly. Incidents and accidents are recorded. OSHA logs have maintained to track recurring safety issues, and they're addressed accordingly. We've improved worker safety. We've reduced lost time, improved money savings from decreased workers' comp claims, and we're less likely to get Connecticut OSHA complaints, inspections, and fines. Injury prevention. EH&S has done a good amount of personal protective equipment evaluation for our staff. We looked at boot grips during winter months to prevent slips during the winter months. Looked at driver training, the computer-based Precipio classes for district drivers. We enhanced in-person classes for CDL truck drivers, and we review the monthly safety inspections that the facilities send to us. We also meet with our quarterly with our safety committees to make sure that we address issues that they may have. We update any safety programs, procedures, SOPs to address issues that facilities have. We do ergonomic evaluations for office staff. And then we have an annual meeting with our Workers' Comp Trust to identify injury trends and recommendations. Slips, trips, and falls. So we continue to emphasize slips, trips, and falls. It's one of our biggest injuries. We provide appropriate snow and spill supplies at each building. We look at winter footwear, traction aids. We have several styles provided that suit various work tasks. The staff has had a boot allowance which was increased. This is to encourage staff to buy quality boots and replace worn out footwear when they need to.
Craig, just real quick, this is really simple, but so one of our examples, we provide and make sure our staff have, you know, all the protective, the PPE, right, to make sure that they're safe when they're working. And we're providing our staff, as part of the union contracts, we pay for their boots, and we're paying 75 bucks. Now, most boots cost 300 bucks. So we said to our unions, and they were supportive of it, your boots are just as important. Slips, trips, and falls are just as important as your orange or your green jacket, right? So as part of our negotiation this year with the unions, we doubled that. I think we went to $300, because the boots are just as important as the green jacket. So it's just a simple thing, but it's something to make our employees safe when they're working.
Thank you.
$300 boot.
There is no $75 boot. That's the problem. You can't buy a pair of boots for $300.
So the employee
Yeah, but if they're wearing, if they're getting $75 and they're wearing, Carl, can you show us your boots? No, it's a joke. It's an inside joke. But you know, when they have worn boots, and we're only giving them $75, we can't hold them accountable to having good boots on the job site. But now that we're giving them at least, you know, what it's the value. You really can't buy a good pair of boots for less than $250. So we want to make sure that our people have the boots. But then we can also say, we're going to hold you accountable if you're not wearing good boots. You know, that's.
Do we make that determination?
Tom does. Tom is the guy who beats people up for not wearing good boots.
I learned that from Bill Schwarm back in the day. Show me your soles, he used to say.
That's true, socks and boots.
Yeah, very important.
Military,
Very
let me
important.
tell you.
Safety and environmental communications. So we have bulletin boards at each facility with all the safety information on it. We do email notifications during severe weather. And wet weather protocols include safety information. And we also have hazardous communication with our SDS books that are provided at each facility, which is a summary of their chemicals that they have on site. We just recently purchased a new confined space entry and rescue gear for our staff. This is a 5-piece design. It sets up quickly, easily over hatches and manholes for district facilities. The one on the right there is at our Reservoir 6 facility, so that they can go into their tanks with proper rescue gear. We have permanent mounts that can be installed around open tanks, basins, so the mast and the davit arms sit inside that easily. We have a trailer hitch mount that was purchased for operations, so they can put it right on the back of a truck, and they use that for entry into sewer manholes. And it's pretty lightweight, so you would avoid lifting injuries. Lockout, tagout procedures, this is one of the things that Jeff was talking about. So EH&S has been working with facilities and consultants to create new equipment-specific lockout procedures. The lockout tagout procedures include reference pictures to assist staff, and they're available electronically for plant operators and maintenance staff for accessibility. And this creates a valuable reference document to help train future staff. So we don't want to energize or de-energize a piece of equipment or lock it out without knowing how to do that properly.
We'll do a quick show and tell.
No.
Here's a typical lockout tagout. So that would be a lock assigned to the technician or the operator. So that's their personal lock. They take the key. They're the only ones that are able to unlock it. So this could control a switch that they're working on. It could lock out a breaker, whatever it may be. But that's typically what they're using. But that's their own personal lock. So they're the only ones that can re-energize that system. So. And then these are some of the typical boot. Yeah. These are some typical boot leads that we supply. EH&S supplies to all their departments that are working on the field. So whenever they need them, we give them to them.
Hey, Chris. Another part of the job for our operations staff is the work zone safety and traffic control planning. So it's like on the right-hand side is a typical work zone safety setup. And it's required to have in-person training necessary for our staff to know how to set this up so that we can control motorists, we can control the pedestrians going around our work sites. And there's the problem we have a lot is the distracted driving that's an ongoing problem for us. So our operators and our maintenance people have to be aware of people on the street and set up those work zones safely. EH&S also does work site inspections. So operations staff are repairing and maintaining sewer and water pipes. We'll go out and look at a couple of the job sites. Repairs may require excavations.
Those are all inventories, you can't have them.
They're great, actually. Repairs may require excavations that have a high injury rate when accidents occur. So there's precautions that have to be taken. We have to use a trench box if necessary. We have to dewater the trench, use a ladder to get in and out of that trench. And then we look at general PPE, hard hats, steel-toe boots, safety vests. And then if they're doing anything specific like cutting or grinding, they have to have other specific PPE for eye protection or face protection, hand protection, or hearing. We also look at the proper setup of the work zone and any other health and safety compliance efforts.
Put these on.
We also have an initiative to do EH&S snapshots as a proactive way to help our facilities out, to look at routine safety and environmental issues. We assist the facilities, look at existing and potential hazards by doing a walk around the facility. And it's a good opportunity. We bring our intern out for the summer to look at some of our facilities and give them an idea of what we do. Any hazards and opportunities to reduce risk are identified and communicated to management. And then we take advantage of leading indicators, prevent injuries and spills, reduce costs associated with incidents, improve organizational performance, and implement any best management practices. We also have a contractor safety program. This was implemented in 2005. So the contractor safety program provides contractors with a clear, concise understanding of the safety requirements and responsibilities needed while working on MDC projects. So EH&S reviews the health and safety program, submittals with the lowest bidder to determine if they comply with the MDC requirements. So overall, this program has provided the MDC with a better quality of contractor in both safety and productivity. So health and safety, we also look at emergency action plans, and we update those as necessary. We look at facilities for managing mercury, lead paint, asbestos management, if they're doing a renovation on the facility. We provide eye protection for our staff, including prescription safety glasses. We provide first aid and AED supply. We look at respirator physicals and fit testing for our staff that need it. We do some air monitoring, and we do hearing testing for some of the operators. So during COVID, EH&S was a big part of the business continuity plan. We assisted HR in developing a process and procedure for the extended FMLA. EH&S continually monitored CDC and state guidance and established internal processes for reporting and quarantining for staff absences. EH&S focused on the health and safety of our staff. We utilized cleaning contractors to hypo-sanitize work areas and vehicles, looked at workspace alterations, distributed face masks and gloves to staff. And all staff were required to wear protective gear. And then EH&S assisted with the return to work plan as well. Lastly is the Household Hazardous Waste Program. It's a pretty big program. We host 10 household hazardous waste collections every year to member towns, including East Granby and Windsor Locks. These collections help keep harmful chemicals out of our environment and drinking water. So in 2022, we had approximately 3,000 customers participate in that. We disposed of approximately 22,840 gallons and 318 cubic yards of hazardous waste. We collected 13,235 linear feet of fluorescent light bulbs, 3,070 pounds of propane tanks, and 210 old fire extinguishers.
Bob Morlinson?
And last, EH&S is responsibility for the workplace safety of all MDC staff. Through safety programs, trainings, audits, and inspections, it's been our goal to see that all staff go home to their families at the end of the workday the same they came into work. Additionally, with responsible environmental compliance with regulations, MDC will continue to improve the environment that will be handed to the next generation. That's it. Any questions? Yes.
You go back to slide 22 for a minute, if you would.
Do that. Not sure which slide was 22.
It's got a sidewalk. It's got two pictures. One of them is a sidewalk closed.
Okay. The contractors say construction site.
That one.
Yes. So my question is whether we have a process when we're closing a sidewalk for ensuring that pedestrians coming down the street can safely bed around our work area, and/or whether the towns require that we should be doing such a thing. So typically, if it's a scheduled planned construction project, we're going to each town's engineering department and reviewing the traffic plan. So any detours that we do around pedestrian sidewalks or shutting down a lane or maintaining alternating traffic, whatever it may be, we put that plan together. What also that we do is, so in a situation with this may be our operations crew, could be a service leak, we're making the repair, replacing the service that day. We have either an officer or flaggers supporting that traffic. So there would be someone right at that sidewalk guiding that person, stopping traffic, making sure they can get to the other side of the road, walk down the sidewalk. There's someone on the other side also letting them get through too. So we've always erred on the side of caution when it comes to traffic and pedestrian safety. So right now we are, and like anything, it's even materials, getting flaggers on a routine basis. We always have 4 flaggers every day for our operations crew ready to go, because we're always doing at least 6 dig repairs every day. So we always have those flaggers available, and then supplementing with our police forces in all member towns as well. So yeah, that would be typically how we would handle that sidewalk crossing. Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Yes. This is just a flyer. I think it's very interesting. It would appear that your department really has the ear of our employees. And they listen very carefully. And I'm wondering, in a sense, since one of the issues that we're grappling with, is this a pipeline that we can use with regards to our compliance issues, with regards to health checkups and things like that? I realize it's way off the reservation, but I'm just thinking, I mean, these are sort of the guys, the guys are, these folks are right in the midst there, and they have their ear. And it would, once again, it would appear that people listen to you folks constantly with regards to safety and health. And I'm just wondering if it's really that much of a segue to really think about maybe having our HR and you folks talk and discuss that and see if we can do something about that. I'm just it's just a thought, yeah. Yeah.
That would be reinforcement.
Yeah. But thank you, really.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Curry here. Two things. One, you had a slide that showed reported accidents, OSHA-reported accidents, which had a nice downward trend. And I think that would have been a great slide to also show your staffing levels, because you've reduced staffing levels, they're doing more with less, and yet the accidents have still declined dramatically over the last several years. Yeah. The other thing I'd like to say is that thank you for a very informative presentation. If you don't know, Chris comes before us all the time and tells us what a great job you do, and we believe him for the most part. But to listen to your presentation today and the level of experience you have and the passion you've shown today is really a wonderful thing to listen to. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you.
Commissioner Kyle Anderson, one of the things you spoke about was internship, and you went very quick on that particular topic. And I see that with the longevity and the retention of people working here, how do you get that information about internships and employment opportunities?
So that goes through the HR department, but we request an intern for EH&S every summer.
Yeah, so if I may, so we're in the process, Commissioner, of actually doing our summer hires for the intern program, and we'll be sending out emails, and the jobs will be posted on the website. When is that, Jamie, when is that?
Already posted.
They're already posted, okay, so we're there, so we go around and we ask our departments, HR says to every department, how many interns do you need? They need to justify that to us. And we have about 30 this year?
20.
20, okay, 20. So we have about 20 or so. We had, prior to COVID, we had like 40 interns, and it kind of fell, for whatever reason, the requests fell short of, I think we had 17 last year, right?
Yes, correct.
So we will start to plan for the summer for our interns. We also do the Learn to Earn program. And I mentioned in the past that our Learn to Earn program is a summer program for high school kids to work on the water and wastewater industry. As Tom started as a POIT, we're trying to build capacity within our towns to hire young people that don't want to go to college but want to work for the MDC as a POIT. And we were successful in actually hiring, on a temporary basis, one of our POITs from last year, right, from West Hartford. And so it's really our first success of hiring someone out of that program on a temporary basis. So the person is still in school, high school, but we're hopeful that that person will be able to get their certifications and come work for the MDC after high school. So we're just starting that process now.
Commissioner Torres?
Well, yeah, this is a great risk management function. I think, in terms of the overall organization, it's a tremendous risk management function. But having said that, and seeing the decrease in the the accidents and that sort of thing, and the steps taken to prevent accidents and injury. Have we been able to translate that into a reduction and perhaps in our insurances, in our liability insurance?
So you're going to see when Jamie does her presentation, we at PP&I, we always present from our workers' comp trust. We always talk about our worker comp and our costs. So what we've already presented to PP&I, and Jamie will talk about this in her presentation, is although the incidents are going down with injury or in workers' comp, the value of the incidents are higher. The costs per incident is higher. So we're seeing a reduction, but that's as a result of not so much, it's the cost of care, right? Is the cost of incidents are going up. And so, but Jamie will present that when she does her presentation with HR.
I guess my question was more related towards if we, at any given point in time, require to have some sort of insurance to protect the agency from, accidental costs associated with accidents. If I know that it's like when you get house insured, if you have an alarm system that has carbon monoxide and fire and that sort of all those bells and whistles, that you get a discount for having those kinds of things. And I'm saying we're doing a great job here. These folks are doing a great job with the risk management, not only in actually reducing those kinds of things from happening, but also taking steps which are proactive to also prevent these things from happening. And so given that, and sometimes these costs are very high,
right. Do we have any? And just remember, Commissioner, we're self-insured, so we pay cash.
Right, that's right.
Right, so we do have some, insurances associated with buildings and those kinds of things, but in general, our cost for workers' comp, our costs for medical is, we're paying for it cash, right? The OPEB, well, anyways. So that, but you're right, there is some benefits, and I would give you an example. We'll just use IT as an example. When we talked about cybersecurity insurances, all the things that the IT department is doing is, one, most people cannot get an insurance for cybersecurity, and two, ours price was so minimal, went down. So to your point, yes, we are seeing a benefit, and Jamie, when she talks about the insurances, workers' comp, medical costs, you'll see that as well.
Okay, we'll cover that. Chairman Durella?
Yeah, I think, Scott, that was the point, 10 years ago, we started the program with younger people for a purpose of getting them into the system, getting them working for MDC, cuts down on our workman's compensation, because the type of work that our people do is strenuous, and the older you are doing it, the more difficult it becomes on your body. So those are the things that we try to encourage, and it's really working, encouraging people into entry-level jobs here, and even college engineering people moving in. So it's been effective.
Yes.
And the thing is, we sit here and watch this demonstration and the process that Scott and the staff has put together. It really, you ask yourself, my God, I can't believe we're doing that many things, and that attention level, because most people don't realize that we don't make the rules on how we operate. Someone else makes them, we enforce them. And we're seeing that and some of the things that we're having with stormwater and things happening, that we are subject to other people laying down the rules, and we have to comply. And this is a demonstration of how we do it. So,
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Curry asked a question. I included these numbers in my presentation. This chart is in our monthly report. Commissioner Curry asked last meeting, are we concerned about what happened to the state, where the state had everyone retire all at the same time? And all of a sudden, the state of Connecticut now had to hire all the retirees back under a 120-day rule because they didn't prepare, right? What they said was, if you don't retire by July 2022, your pension is going to be changed, right? That's what the state did. And they didn't do anything about it. They just, until April of 22, and they said, oh my God, we got to do something because everybody's retiring. So what I presented, and I'll say this again, we, the MDC, we were anticipating this, right? So we've been talking about half of our employees going to retire the next 5 years. We've been saying that for 5 years. And so the numbers are, MDC has hired, since 2015, MDC has hired 151 staff. And we've had 196 retire. So, as we've said, multitasking job descriptions, do more with less. We had more people retire than we hired, but we didn't have 196 people retire, and we haven't replaced them yet. We've been replacing people as people have been retiring, and that's why we're building succession. As you see here, there's a lot of young people that are working here that aren't here tonight, but there's a lot of good young people that we're bringing in, and all these people here are here to train them to be their successor.
Thank you, Scott.
And we also, I mean, with our pension plans and the other things we have, it's a situation where people come here, good job, good benefits, and also they have something when they get it's time to retire, they have something that they have to be proud of and also happy with the financial aspects.
Any other questions?
Chairman?
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman. This presentation tonight, one of several now, that would, so as we go through the whole organization, it was absolutely great. I just wish that all of the commissioners would have heard this, because not only was it well done and informative, but what I believe that it showed, most of all, was a certain level of pride in our staff as they define what it is they do, how they're so proud of their work product, which is all good, of course, but they're also so proud of the MDC. And I think that's clearly one of the things that we as a board want to be sure that that, in fact, is happening. They also seem to take, by virtue of their supervisors, they also seem to take a certain level of ownership, not only about their job performance and so forth, but what the corporation does, how it does it, and so forth. And they're clearly appreciated by their supervisors and the senior staff, regardless of what other department they may touch. So I was just very impressed with the certain level of spirit that is exuded by not only this group of employees, but the previous groups as well. And I think that's just so important when we're faced constantly with murmurs, shall we say, in the greater community where, well, things are not so great at MDC. Well, I can tell you, if you point to the staff, you're going to find a whole different picture. And I just wish there was a way that we could take this group and make that message clearer and constant, because they do a terrific job. And I just thank you from being one of the board members here for your efforts. They're just remarkable.
Just let me.
Yes, sir.
I think the other thing is, as we sit here, at least that we've been here for commissioners that have been here for a while, and look at the issue of the data, utilization of data, digitalizing it, how important it is to the function of MDC. And I think back 10 years ago when we were making that transition, remember with the SAP and the problems we had with data, how far we've come.
Right.
Because SAP is what we've implemented, and you got to the point when you thought that, well, it's only send another payment. SAP, but it wasn't. The implementation was outstanding in terms of how it functions with what we do, and is one of the results of the efficiency and productivity of our employees, but it's a good planning that was done in that from that perspective. So it's enlightening to sit through it. 2.5 hours goes by really fast.
Well, blame the half hour on Tom.
Half hour.
15 minutes on you.
15 minutes.
Which Tom do you want us to blame?
Not Tom, not this Tom.
Any other questions?
Tom, you can't blame the boss.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Bush on the phone.
Yes, Commissioner Bush.
Go ahead.
I'm not there in person today, but I have been listening to the entire presentation, and I just want to, reiterate what Commissioner Hoffman and the other commissioners have said. The depth and the level of complexity of the presentation really allowed everyone to gain a much more thorough understanding of what goes on a day-to-day basis. And I just want to say I'm proud to be part of the organization. It was a very impressive presentation. And, without this type of presentation, you can't really understand what goes on. And I was very impressed with everything today. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, keep going, I'll get there. Okay, next, I'm sorry?
Public comments.
What was that? Yeah,
You got to ask.
opportunity for general public comments. Anybody would like to, Judy, how are you?
Judy Allen, West Hartford. I want to emphasize all the wonderful things commissioners are saying about the staff. You're fabulous. Recently the UN convened a session about water, and one of the things that the UN has talked about is how water and sanitation are human rights. They aren't a privilege, they're human rights. And you all help us to be able to have that water and sanitation that we need, and you do a fabulous job.
Thank you, Judy.
Thank you. Anyone else? Public comments? Online? No? Okay. Number 6, if we can have the official move adjournment. Second?
Second.
We're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
That's an
Thank you
order,
guys
you
for
know,
showing
John.
up.
Let me try.